do we create art out of the fear of time? It's kind of the idea of that instead of fearing time and, oh, I have to go down like this, I have to leave a legacy, I have to do all this before my time's up, like it's chasing after me, it's knocking on the door. Instead of that, it's kind of showing you the evolution of how to think of time as the opportunity, like life itself. Like time is just the door that allows you to have the opportunity to experience life instead of someone knocking on the door. Like it's the actual door. Like it's what allows you to experience it at all.
So don't stress it, more embrace it.
More embrace it, yeah. Just treat it as an opportunity. And that plays into the idea as well of, not creating out of ego, creating out of just the pure love of creating beauty and, maybe leaving something that can make the world a bit of a better place or help someone navigate their own reality. Really just do it out of love. Really just do it out of the want to create beauty.
Purpose in the Youth. Purpose in the Youth. Purpose in the Youth podcast. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast.
Don't give up until you find your thing.
Don't be afraid that you don't know what you want to do yet, because I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. I still don't know what I want to do yet.
I'm still trying to figure that out. If you don't have it figured out early, don't think you're never going to find it.
You really make your own opportunity.
What do you genuinely enjoy?
Everything is strategic. I mean, nothing ends up how you want it to end up.
You go around once, there's no dress rehearsal.
But you have to understand yourself to know what your passions are, and then it just comes really easily.
Keep looking for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only, Bobbbaaaay. Bobbbaaaay. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We got Abstract in the house today, my man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
We're doing this in the basement of Matt Keen's house in New Hampshire.
Legendary
Matt Keen.
Incredible.
We're in the middle or the beginning of virtual reality tour. You,
Yes.
Dylan Reese,
Yep.
Ryan Oakes.
Yep.
How you feeling about it so far? We had New York City, Boston last night, Dover, New Hampshire tonight. And it's 21 shows or 22?
I think it's 22.
Okay.
22. Yeah.
How do you think this tour is going to go for you?
I think it's going to be good. It's definitely testing waters because I've never played East Coast.
At all?
Never.
You've only toured internationally, but you've never done the U.S., right?
And I
no
said
big
that
deal.
on a track 2
Did you?
years ago.
Did
I was
you?
like, I might tour over that, and that's what happened.
Spoken into existence.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so. Yeah. There's so. I mean, we're gonna get into it a little bit farther in, but the fact that you've toured internationally, I can only imagine as an artist, that's got to be surreal. You're
incredible.
Performing in front of people that are in different countries that you probably dreamed of, or like you said, you've spoken into a track that's
Yeah.
I literally want to go there one day and speak to these people.
Yeah.
How would you describe who Abstract is today, and how young is he?
So I am 24 years old.
Yep.
I've been making music for 7 years, 8 years. I mean, I played piano as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I was very ADD as a kid,
Okay.
ADHD, and my mom would make me weekly.
She forced you.
Yeah, she would.
forced you.
I mean, I loved it, but at the same time, it was just hard for me to focus on anything, on that point. I was always very artistic. I love to draw. Unfortunately, I don't do it as much. I still design. I do a lot of merch and stuff like that, and album covers and whatever. But I wish I drew more. But I guess as you grow older, you're still a creative, but you kind of channel it differently as you grow.
Yeah.
But yeah, she brought me up weekly. I'd have piano lessons, and then I'd have piano recitals. And then I started to get into rock as a kid. My dad kind of raised me on a lot of Billy Joel, the Beatles, the Monkees, Beach Boys, stuff like that. And so once I kind of got a little older into the kind of teenage years, I found Green Day and Jet and Good Charlotte, stuff like that, where I was oh, because I didn't even listen to the radio as a kid, because my dad just had these discs on
He just had to keep going.
replay Bob Dylan, all this stuff, and I love it. I still love it to this day. But I started to find out whoa, there's this whole edgier hard rock stuff going on. I was never into metal and stuff, but it was kind of me finding whoa, and I was just enamored with it. I loved it. I came up with this. I loved Jet at the time when I was a kid, so I was I'm gonna make a band called Jam, or something like that. I had it I was.
How old were you at the time when you said this?
Gosh, I was probably 3rd grade, something like that. But I've always loved music.
Yeah.
So it's just I went from that. Once I got into all the rock stuff, I was oh, I want to learn electric guitar. So I started taking electric guitar lessons, and then I got into drums, and then I kind of left it for a bit. And then I'd say these days, it just kind of happened to me. I revisited when my life was kind of in turmoil, and there were a couple things that were just everything got flipped upside down.
What exactly?
Kind of my family's finances got flipped upside down. I was
Okay.
in my first like real relationship, and all that kind of
Timing. It just both things.
both
just-
of those things happened at the same time, and I
Yeah.
was kind of like, I had been freestyling at parties just for fun, like
Okay.
with friends.
You were that guy that was walking in ready to spit
Yeah.
bars, give it to anybody.
No, exactly. And so I was like, well, what if I start writing? Like, I start to take these feelings and these things that I'm going through and, vent. Because I always, like, even when I was in first grade, like, my first grade teacher thought I would be a writer. She thought I was going to do books and stuff like that. And so I always loved writing. And I don't think if I stayed in New Jersey, I would have ever gotten into hip-hop. As weird as that may be, moving to Wyoming got me into hip-hop.
Which is weird because you figured New Jersey is so close to New York City. There's a
Yeah.
lot of hip hop there.
Yeah.
But Wyoming, the middle of nowhere. No
Yeah.
offense to people that are in Wyoming, but
No,
I mean,
yeah.
I've been there. It's like literally there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
What got you into the hip hop world?
So actually, I grew up in Jackson, Wyoming, which is a very
huge ski community, right?
huge ski town.
Snowboard community.
Skateboarding, snowboarding, extreme sports.
Yep.
And all of us growing up, we would go to these premieres of these extreme ski movies and extreme like mountain biking and stuff like that. And the soundtracks were all hip hop. So that's how all my friends were into hip hop. I was like, whoa, like what is all this
It's
stuff?
all
Because I had
dope.
only heard like what was on top 40 hip hop, and I was like, oh, this is cool. But actually, the first time I got introduced to something that I was like, whoa, this is wild, was Swollen Members, which is very different than the music that I make. But at the same time, I was like, this is so interesting. And actually, from Swollen Members, I found out like Army of the Pharaohs, Jedi Mind.
Yep.
I was a huge self-titled fan because I found out that like people were doing these metaphors and just playing with language, and I thought it was so interesting. It just I was like, whoa, like this is like a playground. Like this is so cool to me. So I was just like freestyling for fun, and then when that stuff happened, I was like, oh, I can start to like write this down, and it felt good. Like I could get it off of my shoulders and take that weight, put it elsewhere.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
good to
kinda-
have. It's good to have a medium where you can put your thoughts and feelings into
Yeah.
something, and then you're talking about all this different music that you're raised up on, and then for liking hip hop. I think that's almost the best case scenario because you have all these different types of music you enjoy, and you kind of just funnel it in, and then when you start making your own music, you have so much inspiration that you can pull little bits and pieces from all these
Exactly.
different artists, create your own thing, and
Yeah.
I think that's what ends up. The artists that are able to, not even just artists in music, but I think the people that are able to take the inspiration from a lot of different things and then take it in, create something of their own, put it out, that's when you get the best end product because you're seeing all different people doing it different angles and how they're and how it works for them.
No, exactly.
You were adopted, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
At what age did you find this out, and how did this shape you from that moment moving forward?
It's kind of, my parents were very straightforward with it. They never kept it from me. Like, they had like little children's books that were like explaining adoption.
Really?
Like,
So early on,
early on. Yeah.
That's
so,
probably the best way to do it. I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like people are either gonna tell you from the jump,
Yeah.
when they won't tell you until maybe you're 18.
Yeah, and then it's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's
who
worse.
am I?
Oh.
Like, that's the worst. Like,
Yeah, I cannot even imagine.
yeah. And so I feel bad for anyone who's gone through that. But at the same time, I've talked to a couple people about this, is the idea that I don't really feel, of course, I love my family to death. Like, I talk about it on my new album. I've never really dived into it like I have on this song called Nature vs. Nurture on my album. I've talked about it like in my song I Do This and stuff, but it's just like, I'd say a lot of the new album is taking what I used to, just tell you happened, and actually dropping you into that feeling, like actually exploring that instead of being like, instead of just storytelling, like I wanted to drop people into that.
Yeah.
It's more of a why as opposed to a what that I think I've kind of catered to in the past. But like I was saying with the whole adoption thing, like I've really, as a person, I love it because I can kind of create who I am. Like I don't feel tied to anything. Like who I am is just me. Like it's kind of like I don't feel tied to any lineage or any past history or anything that someone did. Like everything is on me, and however I react and whoever I decide to be is my choice. And
Yeah.
I think that's a huge blessing from it. It's just kind of the way I've chosen to look at it.
Yeah, I actually had one other person on the podcast that it just came to mind that was also adopted, Jida on the track.
Okay, Jida, yep.
And I don't remember if it at what age he found that out, but he was also somebody that like just looked at it from a positive lens and kind of accepted it, and it wasn't and hurt by it. But I also think that was maybe too because he found out earlier on.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
Yeah.
at 20 he finds out that he was adopted.
Yeah.
Um,
And I was adopted at birth, so it was like it was
Yeah.
already arranged.
those
before anything.
those are your parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, I have this. There's this quote on the new album that's anyone can sow you. It takes care to grow you. And I think that's the realest. Like, I may have been brought into existence through that, but like the people who molded me, like they did it out of love.
Yeah.
Like 100%, and that's my family.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you go to college?
Yeah, on and off.
On and off. I know. I asked you this the other night. You said that, and I was like, okay, that's an interesting way to answer that. Did you? Explain to me. Where'd you go? Was it community college or what?
It's a weird story because, like I was saying, I grew up in a ski town, and I really wanted to do like competitive freestyle. I used to do slope style.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
If you grew up next to the mountain, I'm assuming you literally
Yeah.
were probably there all the time as a kid.
Yeah, I even got homeschooled 1 year from high school, and just did
Just so you could full commit onto that.
I would ski every day. So we would do my parents would teach me like in the morning, and then I would ski all afternoon.
Wow.
Or all day if it was like a powder day, because they were dope. But it was also, even when I went back to school, I was doing the free ride program where we basically were allowed, I think it was on Thursdays or Wednesdays, we would do regular school till noon, and then we'd bus out to the village, which is the ski resort out there.
Damn, man.
Jackson Hole Mountain Resort. And so we'd ski all afternoon, do training and just take laps. And it was just it was what I wanted to do. I wasn't the best at all, but I loved it.
Yeah.
I still love it to this day. I kind of messed up my knees in competition a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So it was kind of like, I still ski recreationally,
Yep.
but I just can't take that high impact. Like, it hurts.
I did snowboarding for a couple of years, and then I kind of got out of it. More so because of the time and the cost of it.
Yeah.
It was.
No, it's
I lived
expensive.
away from a mountain, so I had to drive an hour and a half each way to go. So if we wanted to go skiing or snowboarding on a Saturday, you're up at 6 a.m. You're driving up to the mountain. You're spending $100+ on lift ticket, food.
Yep.
You got to drive back at the end of the day. By the time you get home, you're wiped because it's literally a workout. I mean, you know it, but some people that have never gone. It's really intense.
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally on your toes the entire time
Yeah.
in a certain extent. And
Yeah, just the calf muscles, your thighs.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing, I did big mountain competitions. That was my favorite thing, which is more like cliffs and stuff like that. Basically, you study a mountain face, and then you basically pick your line. And whoever's got the cleanest, execution or the best line and most style, gets the highest points. So that was one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
But that stuff is high impact. I mean, unless it's like a powder day, I mean, you're landing sometimes someone else has landed in that same pit like 20 times. So you're landing in like, rock hard snow. You don't know sometimes. You're like, oh, I'll take this 20-foot cliff.
Oh,
but
my
someone's
God.
already bombed that 3 times and you have no idea. And it's like,
Boom.
but it's like, that was my favorite part of skiing. But these days it's just recreational because, like I was saying, I messed up my knees.
Yeah.
And to get to the college point, I was originally like, I toured with my parents to like look at schools that I would be interested in. And at the time it was all about, where's the good place that I can do a business degree, because I wanted to I wanted to make a ski brand when I first started out.
Okay.
That was like a big dream of mine. And then it was kind of like I was looking at all these colleges, and then by the time it was time to go to college, that had happened. And I was like, well, I got to figure something else out because, I didn't think I would go pro with it, but I wanted to do the whole ski brand thing and just ski all the time. Like I wanted that to be, my life. But it just kind of didn't work out like that.
Didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I always think the business background is always good to go with too in school, because then you can kind of use that, and you can use that across the board for if people do go the college route.
Yeah.
It's like studying the business is the best thing you can do for yourself, because especially in the world we live in today now, as a content creator, as an artist, as a podcaster, as a YouTuber, whatever, it's like you are a business.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of times people miss out on opportunities because they're not treating themselves like they are that business.
Yeah.
Came across an Instagram photo. It said the cat. It was actually a picture of your studio. We were talking about it last night. So when I was scrolling back for this, just a little bit of research for this podcast, I saw a picture of your studio, and it said nothing's ever felt unattainable here.
Yeah.
What has kept you pushing through the years to create music, even when nobody might have been showing you love, listening? Because now, I mean, you're at a point where you're touring, you've been international.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing it, but clearly there were those 7 years previous
for sure.
where it was like maybe nobody cared. But how did you have that mindset of like, this is what I wanted to do, and what kept pushing you through it?
I don't know. I'm still coming to terms with some things. I talk about this on the new album. There's actually a 3-song thing on the new album where I basically kill my ego.
Completely. Do you feel like you ever had a point so far in this career where you like felt too good or too cool?
It wasn't so much that. It was so when I had that kind of all that stuff happen with that girl, and at the time, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be the biggest thing. Like everyone's gonna know. Like screw all that. Like you're gonna feel sorry. Like stuff like that. So when I started, it was a mixture of that, and then also getting my like emotions out and like just that pain, but also like that ego thing was just derivative of the pain that was going on within me.
Yeah.
So at the time, it was just like I wasn't always the best with it, like music wise. Like it was just kind of a trial and error as I went. Like you kind of learn more and more. Like I'm on my 11th album now.
Crazy.
Yeah,
that's
I'd
crazy,
say,
right? Like 11, like that's crazy.
It's great. It's really like a crazy journey to look at, because I mean, I say 11th album, but I also did mixtapes, but I kind of treat all of them like albums, like just the way.
Fair enough. Yep.
Yeah, but it's definitely. I don't know. I just always knew that this was for me at a certain point. I was always like, I love to write.
Even when you were skiing, you still was the music like still.
No, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying is like when I was into skiing, I kind of left all that knowledge that I had before. Like I stopped playing piano, I stopped playing the drums, I stopped playing guitar. It was also, I don't know. I just lost connection with it. Like it just became something in the back of my mind. And then all that stuff happened, and I was like, I was freestyling for fun here and there. And I was like, well, what if I, really start to write and, try to take this a little bit seriously? I don't know. I've just always had this, I guess, push to just want to keep going. I never really cared. I was like, I was dropping mixtapes and I would only put them on my Facebook wall. Like, I didn't know how to get my music out. Like, I probably did 5 different mixtapes where I was like, why isn't this working? Like, I'm just posting this on my Facebook wall. But I was from this little town in Wyoming. Like, there was, shout out to Biomecca, shout out to Chalk B, who are kind of hip-hop artists who were before me, who came out of where I'm from, funny enough, but really talented people. But no one had really done it, so I didn't really know how to go about it. And it really took me a while, but I kind of see it as a blessing because I was learning at the same time.
100%. I
was trying to get better, so by the time I kind of figured out the marketing aspect and how to actually get it heard, I had slowly honed myself to actually be,
By the time you stepped up to the plate, you were ready to swing because you had been hitting 1,000 balls in the batting cage, and you were ready to actually swing.
Exactly.
One thing I did, or actually Ryan Pod was talking to me about this earlier. I asked him, I said, what's one question you'd always want to ask Abstract that you maybe never had? And what's your creative process like? Like what has helped you what helps you get to that zone? Like I literally feel out of my creative process because I'm not in my studio. Like I feel at home when I'm there and everything.
Like
everyone, when people walk in, I got everything ready to go, and it helps me just focus on what I need to do. And I think people know that everybody has their own process, and it's something unique to them, but it makes it work. That's how you deliver music. It's how I deliver podcasts. How do you get into that zone of writing mode, entrepreneurship mode? Like what keeps you in that zone?
Well, it's actually really hard because even my girlfriend gets mad at me because I really am always thinking about something. There's something that either I'm working on, it's not quite right, or something I have to tweak or something I have to do. So music is on my mind, whether it's a gift or a curse, it's all the time. I think one of my biggest problems is I really can't step away from it. And I make efforts these days to be like, okay, I need to set aside this afternoon. I mean, sometimes I don't do it and I feel terrible about it, but something comes up and I'm like, oh, this needs to be tweaked. I'm someone who's very much like, I kind of talk out loud. Like even all my producers are overseas, so we talk, all of them.
Wow, it's interesting.
So we all talk over Skype. We all talk over email.
Different time zones, I would imagine. It can be a pain in the ass.
It's kind of cool though, because what'll happen is Craig, my main guy, my mixer, master, does, and also my main producer. So basically, I'll send him something during the day, and then by the time I'm up the next morning, like he has mixed it, and I'm like, okay, dope. Like I have a reference in the morning, which is awesome. So it creates like this 24/7 like. Yeah,
things are getting done when you're sleeping.
Exactly.
For both parties.
Exactly.
And so you guys will just communicate, Skype, hop on phone calls.
We try these days. I mean, there was a time when I didn't meet anybody for about 4 years. Actually 5 years, up until the last album. like the last album is a product of us all meeting for the first time in Sweden. We were out Blue Lake, Gustav. His parents have kind of a vacation house, I guess. So we all went out there for about 2 weeks. We had already had a couple tracks in motion. This was for Something to Write Home About, which was my 2016 album. And we had a couple tracks done, but we really did most of the work together. Like, and I was kind of afraid about it because I was like, I had never really met people on the internet like this. I mean, now it's like Brian, Dylan. We just did this 3 days ago, but it's kind of normal to me now. Because we got there and I was like, I don't know how everyone's gonna bounce off of each other. Because like you were saying, creative process, like everyone has their own. Like how when we're in a room and we've never met before, are we gonna just get to cracking on an album? And we had talked to each other and been messaging so much. Like you were saying, like, you get to know people. You really do, and especially through creative aspects, you can really read how a person feels, even from just production and stuff like that. You can really learn a lot about a person. So I think once we all met up, it just clicked. Like, but I thought for the first couple of days that everyone would be in their own station. And, you know, we'd talk about whatever we had done. But from the get-go, everyone was like working together. Like it was the coolest thing.
You guys didn't miss a beat. It was as if you guys had been working with each other in person for the last 5 years.
No, it was beautiful.
There's something about, you know, with internet and all that stuff, obviously there's so much stuff that we can just do online, and you know, you can send tracks or whatever. But that's like what I always tell people. I will never do a podcast over the phone. I will never. I knew from the jump too. For whatever reason, and knowing that eventually I was gonna get into visuals, because I didn't start with visuals immediately. But I always knew that I'm a people's person and I need to be in person. I need to feel the energy. I need to see the emotions. I need to try. I don't know. There's just something that with human connection, you cannot replicate that over the internet.
Definitely not.
And sometimes that's when you create the best stuff in person. But you can get away with a lot of stuff, like you guys have been clearly working for years doing it, where you just send each other tracks.
Well, it's because I think you kind of figure out your own language. It's like, I know what you're saying. Like, it feels more personable once you've been talking to someone. Like, I don't think we go a day without messaging each other. Like, I don't think we have this group chat going, and it's been going for 2-3 years, I think.
Wow.
But yeah, maybe 4. I don't know, like 2, 3, 4 years, and it's constantly going. Like we're always talking to each other. There's always something that we're doing. That someone's making, because it's cool. Because I have kind of, so the 3 guys the 3 groups. I have Drum Battalion from Norway, which is Patrick and Glenn Ford, they're brothers. In Oslo. And then I have Blue Lake, who he did the Neverland song. He produced that. He's produced so much for me. His name's Gustav. He's from Sweden. And then Craig from Scotland. He was the first person, Cryo Music now, that I kind of connected with through YouTube, just off chance. I was making, I was making like really terrible. I would rip beats from just industry stuff and just put them out on YouTube. And I think I did a cover of Invincible by MGK. And Craig had found it. It wasn't even like he was looking for it. It just kind of popped up in like his recommended or something. And at the time, he was making kind of more like glitch hop, I guess. I don't know. It's more like EDM influenced stuff. I'm kind of removed from the EDM scene, so I don't know exactly what type. I'm sorry, Craig. I'm like
he's like pulling his hair out as he's listening to this or watching it.
No, but he was like making totally different stuff. But he was like, "Hey, I have this track. I'd love for you to rap on it." He just loved the sound of my voice. And so we slowly just like, I was jumping on his stuff, and then I slowly like started to push him into other genres to be like, oh, look at this, like check this out, see if you can make something this type, or like the vocal processing or something like that. And we slowly just started to bounce off of each other until we were just kind of, Craig's someone who's like, we've been working for so long, like it's really, I can say something to him and then he'll send it back, like maybe like a sentence and a half. And I'm like, exactly. Like, that's exactly what I meant. Like, he knows it. Like, even if sometimes it's hard for me because I see from an artistic level, not like a technical aspect, where I'm like saying it to him in weird terms. And he's like, okay. But he processes it and knows exactly what I'm saying at this point because, gosh, we've probably done 200, 300, I don't know how many songs. So now it's like kind of fluent.
You
like
guys just, you could literally, he could finish, you could start the sentence and he'll finish it off and he knows exactly what you're trying to say. Because you guys have worked for so long with each other. You built such a big relationship, and obviously the consistency of doing 100, 200, 300 songs together, he's going to know exactly what you like, what you don't like.
Even like the songs I do with Drummer or Blue Lake or anybody else that I work with, he does all my mixing.
Wow.
So he knows like exactly how to go about it. A lot of the mastering he does as well. So he's like the core. Of course, the rest of the team means just as much to me, but that was like the first, thing that started everything was Craig and I's relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know this is a hot topic, and we don't have to go too much into it, but what was this whole situation a couple months back? There was a song you had done, kind of got ripped. We're not going to spend too much time and talk trash about these people or whoever it was.
No.
But what was that whole situation about?
Basically, the issue was I have the song Neverland.
Yep. That's big. Your biggest record.
It's
right now, isn't it?
It's my biggest one. It's around 110, 120 million.
That's a lot of plays, dude.
Yeah,
That's
crazy.
a lot of plays.
It really took off. It was the first song I made. So when I was moving to Seattle from Wyoming to go to Art Institute, I had done this EP. I was working on this EP, We Are the Artist, with Craig.
Mm-hmm.
And then Blue Lake, shouts out to Gustav. He knows this. He's not going to feel bad. He was actually a fan who was sending me mad beats. He would be like, "Do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this?" I was like, "Yo, this is cool. This is okay." Like, I wasn't too excited on any of it. And then I found Ruth B. She was an up-and-coming Vine star at the time. And I was like, "Yo, look at this preview. As soon as she drops the real track, we're going to sample it." So I waited and waited and waited. She dropped it. Within 2 months, we had created our own remix after she dropped it independently.
Okay.
And that was the first time I hit Gustav, because he was sending me the stuff, and I was like, you know what? He could flip this in a really cool way. Just kind of add the synths, just make it a bigger record, I guess. And so I sent it to him, and yeah, like I was saying, we flipped it in about 2 months. We had the song out. And I wasn't sure I didn't see it as being that big of a thing. I was like, it's a cool record, but it's not like, whoa, it's gonna change my life, kind of. So what happened was, it kind of took off. It was kind of a slow boil, and then it was like,
boom.
And what happened was, in that time period after I had put it out, Ruth B actually got signed by Columbia. And so what happened was they gained all her masters. So by the time my stuff was really rolling, and I was finally like, whoa, we should put this on Spotify or iTunes. And I was young, I didn't know how anything worked. I was like, we'll just put it out, we'll see how it does. I didn't know it would blow up like that.
Yeah.
So what we were trying to do, these ants are crazy.
I know, it's crazy.
So what we were trying to do is just clear the sample. And we treated that song with so much respect. Like, anyone who asks, I'll have people who are like, oh, you ruined the song. But I only just I listened to her song, and I was like, this is what I get out of it, how I relate to it.
Yeah.
And so I just laid that down through my verses. It's really a homage to it. And so we did that, and it blew up like that, and we were trying to clear the sample for so long. And then I started seeing people using that sample and calling it the same thing as what we were.
Because they knew that it was almost a clickbait, too.
Yeah.
Because somebody was going to go looking for the song,
Yeah.
and they'd come across theirs before they came across yours.
Exactly. And so, people were garnering, millions of plays on Spotify, because people were like, oh, I want to find the Abstract Neverland, find theirs, and they were funneling all that hype. So that's where I got pissed, and I thought there was something else, deeper going on. I found out that was not the case, and that actually Spotify doesn't screen for samples.
At all.
Anything that gets taken down is actually manually taken down. Unlike if you go to YouTube or SoundCloud, they actually have a wall where it's
they have the system it gets ran through.
Exactly.
And it spits out whether there's a sample or not.
Yeah. So what I thought is there was a person who was affiliated with Atlantic Records, and I was like, I had talked to people with Atlantic Records before, and I kindly declined. And so I thought that they were like, oh, well, if they don't want to talk to us, then we'll just take the hype of that song and funnel it into whatever artist they have at the time. So that's what I thought was going on. That's not what happened. But at the same time, I was mad that there were people trying to, siphon the hype. No matter how much someone tries to tell you, it's got 100 million views, dude. I know what you're trying to do. That's why I was I was definitely pissed about it. But at the end of the day, it's hard as an independent to try to get through to majors. Both sides were on board for clearing the sample, and then it just fizzled out.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to get anything done at that high of a
caliber
corporate.
There's so many hoops that you have to jump through
Yeah.
in order to just get something to pass off or to clear
Yeah.
on, which I can't even imagine. That's why probably a lot of artists try to stay away from signing with other people, because you do lose that artistic ability and I guess, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what brought you to where you are today. It's like I've always controlled what I create,
Yep.
and I'm going based on my ear and what my team wants.
Yep.
And the moment you sign over, it's like signing over your life, you know? I mean, it's tough because you got to pay the bills and you got to live too, but is it worth it? Is it not?
Yeah.
That comes down to, I think, a question that the artist or somebody like yourself has to kind of figure out for themselves.
Yeah, and it's also like another thing, like I really am I will never, distance myself from my team,
Yeah.
ever. No matter what, you give me. I know people do it.
Yeah.
I know people are like, oh, we got to get that next level. Like, everybody out the room.
Yeah.
We're going to bring in these guys.
Yeah.
I would never do that.
Yeah.
And, it's like I have this, in Puppet Show, I have this line. It's like, if you sign me, sign the whole team. Like, I'm not... I am nothing without them, and they are nothing without me. We all feed off of each other, and we've all come up together.
Yeah.
We've all had hits together. We've all helped each other's rise, and
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
I think that's also just long play, short term, long term. Like the people that kind of cutthroat and they just like throw their team to the side. It's like, that's my thought process. Always just wait. Just
Yeah.
wait. That time's going to come.
Just play the long game.
Yeah. I'm always playing the long game. And
Yeah.
sometimes people just want to X out the people that they think it's not going to matter. And then all of a sudden that person that you X'd out 5 years later is up top.
And they're like,
I'm just like,
"Oh,
yeah, that's right. I did it. But sometimes people, they don't want to listen. The Europe tour, that was Jonas's About Time.
Yes.
11 shows.
Yep.
You're 6,000 miles away from home.
Yep.
How did that feel?
It was wild.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a blur. Like, even Yonas.
And you said that was the first tour ever?
That was my first. I mean, I played shows around and stuff.
Yeah.
It was cool because actually Ryan Caraveo, he had me on 2 shows.
You did a couple of those shows, right?
Yeah, I did Iowa and Nebraska, and we actually had really good turnout, which was
Awesome.
wild. It was super cool
Nebraska's
to see.
like, you're in the middle of nowhere. You're
Yeah.
like, is anybody going to pull up? You guys pulling up on tractors? How are we getting
Both
here?
of us were like, whoa,
Yeah.
like, this is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
out in Nebraska.
Yeah, yeah.
Place. But it was cool because I kind of had the opportunity to kind of warm up, do those 2 shows, and then head out there. It wasn't like I was just like, oh, you're on, like,
Yeah.
in Germany, and I haven't played in a while. So it was cool that having that experience to, warm up and then go over there. But it was really mind-blowing. Like, it was a lot of hard work. My girlfriend was running merch for Yonas and I. Shouts out to Gracie. It was incredible. She killed it.
Yep.
And then Craig was actually DJing the whole way. He learned to DJ.
Just for that.
Just for that.
Oh my
Just like a
God.
month out. And
Talk about getting thrown into it.
dude, he's one of the smartest people. He actually works for CERN, the Hydro Collider
Okay.
in Geneva, Switzerland.
Wow.
Like one of the smartest people I know. Like anything he wants to learn, I guarantee you he can
He'll
sit with
figure
it
it out.
and he'll figure it out.
Once he has a vision, he's like, yep, I'm going to learn this.
Exactly. And so he did that. And actually what he would do on tours, because we had such a small crew, we had Craig, Gracie, and then Blue Lake for some of it, but most of it was just us. And then Yonas, of course, and his team. Shout out to Reed. But basically he would hit play, I'd have my song, and then he would run around with the camera and like just take shots, take photos, take video, then get back on stage in time.
Keep going.
It's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's funny? It's like we kind of live in a world now where people are doing that. They're literally like learning how to do every
And that's
part
the
of
thing,
that
too.
business.
He only learned to video like that maybe 3 months before that. He only started like experimenting. So both things, like DJing and the video, and they came out amazing. Both things, like it's incredible.
How did it feel just to see like the love and support? Did you like meeting fans that are?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool. Like to be, like you were saying, so far from home, like 6,000 miles, and have people who like were personally affected by something that, they speak a different language than me. And I even heard from people like through my music, they learned English. Like basically, because I do a lot of stuff that's, you can really kind of feel the emotion in whatever I'm trying to say. So I feel like people kind of hear the emotion and they can feel it, and then they're like, well, I want to look deeper into what it means. And a couple people through that have learned an entire new language through that. But most of Germany in general does speak English, so that's why I think it's also a different culture. They really care.
Yeah.
They really care about the lyrics. They really care about the love that you put into it, and it's just different. It's not like, oh, he's not popping, we're not going. Like, I listen to him, but we're not going to go because who's going to be there?
Yeah.
Like, it was really like everyone came out like hours and hours to come and see us from like maybe we weren't hitting their city. But, like Hamburg, we did 250 people, just this crazy venue. It was such a hole in the wall. But they were just so appreciative and so stoked to meet me. I had people who had listened to, 4 or 5 years. And they knew all the words. I saw people rapping back to me. They were like, this is my first show or stuff like that. and it was just the coolest thing. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you're the fact that you're telling me that somebody told you they learned English from your music. I don't even know what I would say to that. You know,
it's crazy.
like literally learned a language from listening to your music. And I also think too, it with you, I always hear the people that I meet that tour Europe for photography, or they're photographers for artists, or they're the tour managers or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the one thing they always say. It's like Europe, they treat the music so much differently, and I almost, do people just go, and that in my mind I'm thinking people might just go and they just are there for the music. They're not there to, like, they're there to have a good time and party and whatnot, but I feel like there's a deeper reason for why they're there that maybe you'll never get in the US, because everybody, I mean, this is where it's all, the music's all made, or maybe we take it for granted because you're going to come through my city almost every tour. You know, I don't know what it is, but you definitely always hear that they appreciate it much differently than we do here.
And I think also it is funny, like, your state's going to mess with you more than your hometown.
Yeah.
And your country's going to mess with you more than your home state most of the time, until you're really popping.
Yeah.
And I mean, with that logic in mind, then the other continent's going to mess with you more than your continent.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason, there's just like this mystique to it, I guess. You're coming from a faraway place. And also, just for some reason, Germany, like, that's two of my biggest cities on Spotify. Maybe seven.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, like maybe 7,000 of people listen monthly. And it's like I don't know, they just love it.
Yeah.
They really care about it.
Yeah. And you're
really
just
cool.
creating what, I mean, that's the cool thing. It's like you're just creating what you think is dope.
Yeah.
What you want to create as an artist, put it out there, and if somebody connects with it, then it's like, all right, I'm going to still keep creating this regardless if people support it or not. You got almost 2 years on this next album. I don't know if you want to talk about it too much in depth. We can kind of skim over it. But you showed me that little short clip film, little teaser.
Yeah.
What's this whole, like, vision for this next project and the incorporation of a short film?
There's a lot of things.
Which I think is genius, too. I know it's, for the record, because they weren't there in the room when you showed me earlier, but I think it's genius when artists find other mediums to kind of promote their brand or to build a bigger audience or whatever. So I think it's genius, like people like yourself who are going to step into that world of doing film or whatever.
No, thank you.
But go ahead.
No, it's definitely, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, all that stuff. And so I've always wanted to write scripts and, do short films or movies and stuff like that. And I think one day I will. That's like, I talk about this, but as a creative, I don't think I should bar myself to any means of channeling it. Like, if I'm making music right now, like, that's cool, but if I really wanted to spend the time, I could learn and go back to drawing as well as I was as a kid. So it's like, it's kind of what you choose to set your mind to. I think as a creative, we can channel it through whatever we want if we really take the time and, give it the respect it's due and really have the passion for it. I think, that innate want to create can be channeled through anything. So I've always wanted to make scripts. I've always wanted to direct stuff. So with the new album, I really wanted to connect it to the last album in a very interesting way because I love cohesiveness. I'm a big Kevin Feige fan, the guy who kind of heads the entire Marvel universe, MCU. And I love the way that things are able to stand alone, but they play better as part of the big picture. Like everything plays off of itself. So even in my last album, Something to Write Home About, it's the story. It's like my 5-year story up to that point. Like the first track is 17, second to last track is 22. So it's that 5-year span, that journey up to that point. And it actually ends, like I was saying, the whole team creating the album in Sweden. And I'm on a plane headed home, looking out the window on the way home. So much went into that flight. And so with the new album, I was like, instead of 5 years, what if the entire new album takes place on that flight home? Just much more concept. It's much more conceptual. And then also at the same time, when I was in college, I told you I wanted to do the ski brand when I was a kid. And that kind of turned into me wanting to do a streetwear brand. So I came up with this thing, Moon 5-2. It's actually on my hat right here. I'll show you guys. But
Moon 5-2.
Moon 5-2. So I came up with this logo, and it was always something I had in the back of my head. And in 2016, I actually did my first drop, just for fun, just a little merch drop of it. And with this album, I was like, well, why don't I revisit that and kind of give you the backstory of what that means to me? really give it like a mythos, I guess, like just a history, something that like is synonymous with the brand. So what I've been doing for the last year and a half is creating this short movie that's about 10 minutes long, that also has narration over it and also sound effects and all this stuff. So we're actually going to rip that and turn it into the first track on the album. So if people find it years from now, they still know what's going on. It's like, and also it allows for 2 times the context in the same amount of time if you're doing narration over scenes. So that's what I wanted to do, is kind of make it so you can watch the movie and then, you know, the rest plays out in an audio level from track 2 to track 19, I think it is. I think 19. It's long. Yeah. The album's long. Like, we're trying to keep it below 74 minutes just for the fact of physical copies. Yeah. Because that's all it can.
That's all you can fit?
That's all you can fit. Okay. And I don't want to do like a side B and it's like, oh, 5 minutes.
Yeah, no. You either got to go big with it or not, don't do it.
So that's why it's kind of this, I say 19 tracks and people are probably getting turned off to that. They're like, oh, he's just trying to play this streaming game. But every single track is there for a reason, I promise. Everything plays into itself. It's no filler. It's honestly, every track is needed to tell the whole story. It's a lot of evolution for me. It's a lot of investigating myself. It's a lot of questioning my belief system. It's a lot of, like I was talking about earlier, kind of the ego-driven stuff, like do we create art out of the fear of time? It's kind of the idea of that instead of fearing time and, you know, oh, I have to go down like this, I have to leave a legacy, I have to do all this before my time's up, like it's chasing after me, it's knocking on the door. Instead of that, it's kind of showing you the evolution of how to think of time as the opportunity, like life itself. Like time is just the door that allows you to have the opportunity to experience life, instead of someone knocking on the door. Like, it's the actual door. Like, it's what allows you to experience it at all.
So don't stress it, more embrace it.
More embrace it, yeah. Just treat it as an opportunity. And that plays into the idea as well of, you know, not creating out of ego, creating out of just the pure love of creating beauty and, you know, maybe leaving something that can make the world a bit of a better place or help someone navigate their own reality. Really just do it out of love. Really just do it out of the want to create beauty.
Yeah. I really do respect people that really think through things like that, and when you're talking about it, you can see the passion, and people that are just listening to it or watching it, they're going to hear it or they're going to see it themselves, but it's like you're doing it, the reason you're doing what you're doing is very, it's genuine, you know? Like, you're not here to doing music because I want to be a touring artist I want to make millions of dollars and blah blah blah. Like, you can tell it's genuine, and that's one thing that I've always tried to make. Well, not make sure, but the one thing that I've enjoyed seeing, and the guests that I've ever had on the podcast, not just artists, but all these entrepreneurs and stuff, like, you can tell that they're doing the right thing. Like, they have found, at least in this moment, like, maybe they're going to do something different down the line, but right now they, in my eyes, are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah. And they're doing it for the right reasons. Like, they're starting with why they, you know, if you ask them why they do it, it's not for the wrong reasons. It's actually for the right reasons. Yeah. And especially with the cohesiveness, you know, I think that's extremely hard to, extremely hard to do. But if you can do it, it's appreciated for the people that really pay attention to the fine details. I think a lot of people are going to overlook it and just like, oh, this is cool.
Well, that's the cool thing. Like, I have this big sci-fi aspect to it where it's like, oh, that's a cool, like, overlying story. Yeah. But if you really want to dive deeper into it, there's all these layers of, like, connectivity between track 2 and track 17, track 3 and 5. Like, there's 3 tracks in a row where I'm basically battling my ego, and if you really listen, you can hear that argument going back and forth. It's just really like, I love music that has the duality to be enjoyed on the surface, and if it was playing at a party, you'd be like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. But if you were sitting in your room or in your car, you're like, oh, like, this is what is going on. Like, I love that duality to music, like making it sound good. Yonas is one of my favorite people because, like I was saying, like, touring with him was amazing, but it's kind of a dream come true for me because I was a big fan of him for years.
Oh, that's super cool.
It's crazy, but it's like he loves to do this as well, is kind of taking, you know, popular music or something that's catchy or something and infusing it with meaning, kind of like a little bit of sugar helps the medicine go down, if you will. And I really believe in that. I really believe that I hate when people preach to a choir, because you're not really talking to the people who you need to change. They're already changed. They're with you. That's cool.
Yep.
You're not really making a change. They're already with you. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
But if you really can infiltrate people who may not necessarily agree with you, and show them a different side through a little bit of sugar helps the medicine go down, you're actually making a change. You're not just preaching to a choir.
Yeah.
And that's what I really heavily believe in. So that's why like it does have this overlying like fun, like sci-fi, like this is cool. It's this cohesive story. There's no pauses in the album. There's all these skits that tie everything. That's really cool. But if you want to dive deeper, there's this whole, my evolution of my belief system between Eastern and Western religion. And it gets really, if you want to go deep with it, like people are able to. And I really like that duality.
Yeah. You should almost consider starting like a podcast just for the album, like taking
I've been
doing
told,
like a track by track,
Yep.
and just sit down with the producer or somebody that really knows the music and just talk about each record, because you could probably get an hour pod per track and talk about the fine details, and the true abstract fans would probably love it.
Yeah.
Would absolutely love to hear more like the backside, kind of going back to what we were just talking about too, of like, you're an artist at heart, but then you're going to do like movie and writing, maybe throw out a podcast out there, talk about, create a platform for people to get to know you better. Almost. I mean, we could talk about that off camera. I'm always pushing. I'm always, whatever people do it, I'm a huge advocate for podcasting, clearly, because I do it, but I'm always like listening to what people do or watching what they do. And then I'm in my mind processing, how could I turn that into a podcast? Where could they add more value to? How could they give the listeners or the
dig a little deeper?
Yeah. So I'm always looking at different angles. But quick, a little punch back in. We had to use a little bathroom break, fill up the waters, but we're here back with abstract.
Boom.
What's we got a little bit of time left before we go rock out in Dover, New Hampshire tonight. What's your definition of success?
My definition of success, I think, is just the ability to fund my ideas. That's the biggest thing. Like even with this new album, was like there were things where, luckily I found a good team where it was feasible, and also someone who was as into my vision as I am. Otherwise, people will look at this and they'll be like, whoa, like what was the production? But luckily it's someone who was, or a company rather, who was as passionate as the idea that I pitched them as I am. So, when you work like that, and also, it's mutually beneficial. And that's the kind of people you got to find, because, you can work with big people all day, but they're like, they don't really care about you.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, we'll do that. But like when you allow someone, kind of the means and the vision to also put as much passion into it, you end up getting a better result. Which was a big thing for me with getting this done.
Funny thing too, what you said was you have to find the right people. And I don't know why it happens. You do have to find the right people, but the thing is, you can't go searching for them. They kind of just appear in your life.
Yeah.
The timing, there's so many factors that I don't know what it is, but it's interesting how things fall into place with the right time. And yes, that's what I always tell people too, is like you need to find people that are passionate. You need to find people that are doing what you want to do and surround yourself with them. But if you literally go out there looking for it, like, yo, where are these people? You're not going to find it.
Because they're probably like in the vision that you're not looking, because
you're so focused on just one little pivotal spot when you have everything going on around you. But I think you have to notice, you have to kind of just in the back of your mind know that feeling too. I almost feel like there's a feeling when you meet somebody or you have a conversation with them and you kind of just know that's somebody you want to work with or somebody you would love to do business with.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it or put into words, but
I think there's definitely a flow to the universe. And I think if you can catch it right and you're ready to accept it and, not too forceful with it, of course you're passionate about it and you may obsess over it, but you definitely have to kind of, let it speak to you, I guess. Just kind of flow with it instead of fighting against it or whatever. Even with my music, I've never tried to speak on a subject I'm not currently feeling. Like I'll get hit up for features and I'm like, I can't relate to this right now. I'm sorry, I can't give you my all because I can't relate to the track. Like maybe I'll relate to it months from there. Maybe I'm going through something and I can hit them back and be like, yo, like I'm in a place now that I really think I could shed some light on what you're talking about and really relate to it and bounce off of you. But you know, I can't just do a feature and be like, put myself in those shoes and act like that's what's going on in my life, because, you know, I don't like to force it like that. You kind of just got to flow with the universe, and the best stuff comes out of that. If you really, you know, I was even talking to someone about this where someone's had a drastic change in their life, and they're worried about making the same content as they used to, and, you know, it's going to be a different sound or it's going to be different. I'm like, people will respect it, and they feel it when it's honest. Like, if you really capture what you're going through and who you are, whatever it may be, whatever stage you may be at, people will respect it. Even if they don't understand it, they can feel how much you feel about it. Yeah. And I think that's very important for people to, you know, really take grasp of their reality and, you know, put it into words and not force anything, you know, just kind of flow with the universe like I'm talking about.
And that's, you know what, that's a hat off to you, because I know there's probably a lot of artists out there that if they got hit up for a feature with an offer with money on the line, they would just do it. Yeah. And obviously you're at a point now where we're not going to get into like the fine details of it, but like you're able to live full time off of your music, and I don't think money necessarily is the biggest stress. No. I understand some people, it's like, I need to do this feature because I need to pay the bills. And at the same time, it's like, I have to respect that, because you got to pay your bills somehow, some way. But if you are able to, as an artist, to say, to actually recognize like, nope, this is not meant for me. Like I can't do that. Like that's a true art. Like that's a true respect to the artist. Yeah. For the art of creating, you know?
Because if that's really real to them, who am I to go and like try to step into their shoes? Like maybe this is like them putting their heart on the line, and I'm just like trying to fit into that. And I'm like, well, I created this, you know, persona of going through what you're going through. Like that's not respecting them. Like they're really coming from their heart with this. And if you can't relate to it at the time, don't force it. You know, that's not fair to them.
Yeah, it's not. You don't want to take advantage of the situation. You don't want them to feel. You don't want to put your name, label your name on something unless you fully behind it and you feel like this is the best product that I could have done, the best verse that I could have laid down for this artist. You always want to give like that your best ability. If you had to write a book today, what would the title of it be?
Oh, gosh, that's hard. I think Be You. I think that's I come from such a different background than a lot of people. Like I'm adopted. I grew up in Wyoming mostly. And I'm a hip hop artist. Like that's so weird, but
it's
like
a big mix.
But like I'm listened to all over the world, and people relate to it because I knew that there's an audience out there who would relate to me. I wasn't trying to be anybody or push anything that I wasn't. You know, whatever I went through, I would let it be known. And I'll even have people who are like, you know, why don't you play this song at your shows? And it's like, I don't currently feel like that. Like I'm not gonna say that out loud to you. I'm not gonna stand here and try to just for, you know, my own benefit, you know, peddle you this song that I wrote forever ago, and I don't feel that way anymore. You know, it's all about really being authentic with it at any point. Like I respect all the songs I've ever made. They've always like been a checkpoint, or like for some reason meant a lot to me in my life. Either got me through something, or, you know, wherever I was at, or the way it was created, or something like that. People ask me like my favorite song, but there's so many different reasons to have favorites out of the stuff I've done. So yeah,
I can never. When people always ask me the big question, who's your favorite podcast with? It's like there's a couple people. There's certain pods that definitely stand out the most for personal reasons, or you know, people I always wanted to get on the podcast. But there's all these little gems that I feel so like grateful for to have these conversations. And you know, there's little comments for whatever reason people will say in a pod, and I'll find myself repeating that comment at some point in my life where I'm like stuck in a situation, and I don't know, it just randomly happens where I can kind of think of a pod and what somebody had said. But you know, it's also too, it's always just a work in progress, right? Like as an artist, as a podcaster, as whatever, it's always a work in progress. There's no point in getting caught up. You're never gonna, you know, you can't think that everything is always going to be perfect, because what's perfect today, when you release that thing or put out that piece of clothing or whatever it might be, in 2 years, when you get better, you're going to look back and think like, how did I even think that was cool? It's just about what makes sense today. How do you feel about it? And if you're confident, then go with it, because you're going to keep growing as time goes. And that's the whole point. You're supposed to be, you kind of want to be able to look back and be like, what was I thinking? Because that only shows you how much you've grown with what your art is, or whatever it is, the thing that you do.
And that's an important thing too, is because some people out here, like, they hide all their old music. They're like, they treat it as a regret. And that's weird to me, because it's part of your evolution.
Yeah.
Whatever you were doing there helped you get to where you're currently happy with your
Yep.
art. So I regret it.
Yeah.
All of that is part of the story that made you what you are currently.
Yeah.
So just respect it. You may not, stand fully behind it,
Yeah.
or you feel like you're more mature and you're grown from it, but it's part of your story.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
It's 100% part of the story.
Yeah.
What do you think Luke's purpose is?
I
Notice how I said Luke. I didn't say
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
because this is like, what is Luke's purpose?
I think we're all just trying to figure out life. Like, just try to, I think as a person, music is a way for me to navigate my reality. That's why I'm saying, like, even with the new album, it is an evolution. It's me kind of questioning myself and questioning the outside world and just kind of navigating everything. Like, music is really a tool for me, I think, finding out my purpose at the end. Maybe I'll figure it out one day, but honestly, it's just kind of day to day. Music is my tool as a person, as Luke. Abstract is kind of this, I guess, tool to kind of navigate myself and figure out. Maybe one day I'll figure it out, but
Yeah.
for the time being, small wins, I guess.
Yeah.
Not winning the battle, but
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Those are the most important ones, the small little ones, because all those little ones just keep building up, building up, building up, and then you look back and you have this major victory because of all those the little minor successes you had in those days.
Exactly.
And speaking of days, I did want to ask you one question that I forgot to. I usually ask it before the purpose question, but are there anything in your day-to-days that are a must? I know right now it's a little bit different. You're on tour. This is like not even reality. I swear touring is just
Yeah,
not
it's
real
not.
world. But when you're in, when you're back on the West Coast and you're living and you're making your music and you're in your full grind mode, are there things that you need to do daily to feel like you've completed the day, whether it's eating right or going to the gym or anything like that?
These days, I'm trying to work out more. I'm terrible.
That's fine.
I was trying to work out just for tour because I've been like studio. I've
Yeah.
been just in studio,
Yep.
either like sitting or working on something or writing or, talking with people. So I've just kind of been like a studio head. I mean, equivalent to it's a productive couch potato, I think. That's like,
I like that.
that's the way I look at it. And
Yeah.
so I was finally like, I have to start running.
Yeah.
I can't perform like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Like I can write like this. This is cool, but I'll try to walk my dog because it's
Okay.
good for her, and it's also just getting out of the house.
It's pulling you out.
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing is my girlfriend's always like, you never leave the house. And even her friends are like, we never see your boyfriend. Like, does he exist? And I'm like,
He's
'cause
fake.
I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not your typical, that's why I hate to call myself a rapper. I am at the end of the day because that's how I got into music. But a rapper comes with this very extroverted context. And when I step into, right now you're seeing me as I've made I've turned on the switch to be like, okay, I have to be extroverted. I have to have this energy on stage. I have to get the crowd involved. I have to project.
Yeah.
But honestly, as a person, I really am someone who really likes to reside in my head. Like I love to watch movies. I love to consume art. I talk to people about this too, is like, I love to consume life. I love to consume art, media, because it's all fuel for me creatively. I believe there's some original ideas, but I think a lot of it, like you were saying, is taking things that you've been influenced by and reinventing them. It's innovation at the end of the day. Taking all the things that you're influenced by and creating something new out of it. It's not so much an original idea, but it's just, it's innovation. That's what it is at the end of the day. And so as a person, I definitely am someone who likes to keep to himself, and I really love to write. Like I'm not someone who's gonna rent a Rari for a music video. I'm not. And I totally respect people who do. People have different ways of expressing themselves and different things that we were talking about success and different things that they qualify as success, and that's fine. But I'm really someone who just enjoys, I like to think a lot, and I think that shows a lot on the new album. But yeah.
You're a homebody.
I'm a little bit of a homebody.
Which is nothing wrong.
Yeah.
You want to be in control. You want to, sometimes you have to lock yourself out from everything else that's happening in this world and just be in a room by yourself and just soak in art or listen to music that inspires you or create stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
You at some point you have to step away to do those things, because if you're out in the world and running around, there's never time to do it.
Yeah.
My hat is always off to like those video guys that will just sit in a room for 15 hours a day and I'm such a person. That's why I love doing podcasts, because I'm a people's person, man.
Yeah.
I just want to be around people all the time. But I do recognize that, like, when I'm, when I'm editing these videos, I'm making clips on the Instagram, I'm doing anything content related, it's like I have to step away at some point to I have to break away from the world, pull myself in a room to get shit done, and then I can go back to it. Before I get into the final questions, this is when I reverse the role. I allow my guests to ask me any one question. Could be about something we talked about today. Can't be a question that I asked you, though, already today.
Okay.
One question, go ahead.
Yeah. I'd say, what do you think is the hardest thing with breaking the ice with people?
Breaking the ice with people.
Yeah, I mean, like you were talking about it earlier. It may have been off camera, but talking about how, you kind of take time to talk to someone before you get into your podcast.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, what is the thing that you really can boil down to the issue you have sometimes with, like, kind of getting over someone's barrier, I guess?
I think to break the, you have to, you got to just get right to it. Sometimes people spend too much time, and I've learned this a lot through Uber too.
Yeah.
Man, Uber is unbelievable. I swear it comes up in every podcast because, I mean, it is so much part of my life. I literally drive it full time, 50 hours a week, and I've learned to just communicate with people so much. But sometimes people spend too much time beating around the bush. Instead, they should just go right to the point.
Yeah.
We could spend time, and you could be like, abstract, tell me, like, where you want. I don't know. It's just like you have to just get right to it and
direct.
Just be very direct
Yeah.
and ask. I was actually talking to somebody about this last night at the show, and I was giving this person advice about. He actually had spoke to you. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's another artist.
Yeah.
And, how do you get people to remember who you are, right? And I think it's about asking the right questions. If you ask the right questions, people are gonna remember you. Be like that. You might get 10 people. You go to the concert tonight, maybe 100 people might ask you, dude, how's it like being on stage? Like, is it crazy? Or how's it been to travel around? Like all this stuff. But then you get that random kid that comes up to you and be like, hey, Abstract, I love the music. What's been the biggest difficulty for you as an artist? Like, what's the biggest struggle you faced? And then you're like, wait a second, what?
That makes you think.
He kind of makes you think. You're like, why is this kid pushing me? Like, he's not asking for a favor. He's asking something that's pretty in depth.
Yeah.
So I think it's about asking the right questions and asking questions that show depth.
Yeah.
That are going to get people to really talk and take a step back and be like, damn, how did this person
really get in their head?
Yes.
Just like from the get-go.
and do the research?
Yeah.
And that's how I've gotten good at breaking ice, and at least for podcast guests, when they come in, I'll immediately just start compliment them right away. I see what you did with X, Y, and Z, and I saw a couple months ago you were doing this, and then they immediately kind of feel almost like a sign of relief, because like, this is somebody that's done the research. This is not their first rodeo.
Yeah.
And that's something that I pride myself on, is I want to make sure that when people sit down with me, at least for the podcast, that I want them to feel great and know like this wasn't a waste of their time, because that's the last thing you want to do, is waste people's time and ask them questions that you could have Googled.
Yeah.
Kind of ask questions that are more direct and can have them elaborate on something a little bit more certain. But to just break ice, and I don't know, man, it's something that's become so natural for me that I forget that it's hard for people.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and you have to say hello to people. I was at a concert 2-3 weeks ago to see Bobbbaaaay.
Okay.
He was in LA. My homie Jordan Levine is the tour manager.
Okay, awesome.
I had just released a podcast that day with Jordan, so it was like great timing. They were in town for tour, and I ended up at the end of the show, I saw one of G-Eazy's managers, Jamil.
Okay,
and
yeah.
I see this guy everywhere. I see his like social media.
I follow his social
Everyone
media,
knows who
yeah.
Jamil is
Yeah.
if you're in the industry. Part of me was like, should I go say what up to him, or like just at least introduce myself? And I said, screw it, I'm going up to him. And I walked directly up to him, and I just said, Jamil, hey man, my name is Bobby Hobart. I know who you are. I just wanted to say like respect to what you do. I see the success. I'm big on just people that are passionate in what they do, and that's it. And I did it. I shook his hand. One of his buddies was with him, and he was like, he knew who I was. He's like, oh, this guy, he runs a podcast, blah,
My
blah,
guy.
blah. Yeah,
My God.
But I was happy that I did that. I was
That's
happy that I
awesome.
just like jumped up and did it. So I don't even remember what the question, how it started, but I just think that people need to just put themselves in the uncomfortable position and ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And don't make it about you.
No,
I didn't go up to Jamil's, the Jeezy's manager, and say, hey, man, I do a podcast. I've been doing this for a long time. I didn't ask for a favor. I just went up to him. I said, hey, presented my name, showed him the respect that I knew who he was and I knew what he did. And I just said, thank you. And that's all I did. And then his buddy was like, oh, he does a podcast. So it wasn't me. You know what I'm saying? So that's the other thing it's too is like you can't make it always about you. If
Yeah.
you're trying to break the ice, it's about them. It's about the person coming onto the podcast. Today it's about abstract.
You gotta step
of
into
course-
their ring, I
Yes.
guess. Yeah.
And of course, you got to still add a little bit of who you are into it, but remember there's a balance to it.
Yeah.
This is the 95% today is really going to be about you. 5% is going to be me trying to add my 2 cents of my own experience too, because I want people to relate to for my process and my journey.
Yeah.
Just do it. Be uncomfortable and say what up to people.
No,
you
I
know?
like that.
Closing questions for you. I want you to imagine there is a picture frame on the wall. It's 10 years from now.
Yeah.
You're in the picture frame.
Yeah.
What else and who else do we see in that picture frame 10 years from now?
I think it's just the whole team, including my girlfriend, just everybody with hopefully like a big movie premiere or like album premiere poster behind us or something like that. I love my team to death. Like that's, like I was saying, like I stay to myself. I do have friends who, you know, I talk to in the daily, even if they're in states away and stuff like that. But that's really my family. Like a day to day, we work. Like we talk. We send memes to each other. We send videos, and you know, Gracie is like. Some days she's the only person I see. Some weeks, like I'm just making music
Just doing your thing.
You know, that's my family. Like of course, my mother, my father, my sister as well. Like all the people who kind of made me who I am. I just really want to, you know, bring them joy through bringing the world joy. You know, through entertainment, through music, through, you know, whatever I hopefully can get into.
Yeah.
You know.
What where can people find you on social media? If they
Social
don't,
media, Instagram, abstract 307. 307 is the Wyoming area code.
Hey,
Yeah,
307.
Yeah. And then Snapchat, same thing, abstract 307. Twitter, the true abstract. Facebook, you know abstract. I made them
Bugs
over the
flying
years, so I wish they were
Oh,
like
they're
all
all-
the
they're
same.
all the
So they're
same.
all like,
Yeah.
yeah. And then abstracttheartist.com is my website for now, but I'm updating it.
You're
currently,
updating it.
So yeah.
I'll have all the social media tagged up. It'll be everywhere so people can find you.
Awesome.
It's always easy to put up all the links and it's like click here, click here.
Yeah.
But before I ask the final question, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
you,
I know this
Bobby.
is like
I really
this is
appreciate it.
like down in this garage. And
Mac
it's so out of the environment and literally I started the pod, ladies and gentlemen, and I immediately had to stop and restart. It was too hot and all these things, and it's difficult. But yeah, we got ants crawling around here. But I definitely have seen your name from afar for a long time. I see the hustle, I see the grind, and then even just kind of getting to meet you 2 days ago, spending the last 48 hours with you, it's very obvious to me that this is what you're meant to be doing. This is, and I had said earlier in the pod that you can tell that this is, you're doing this for the right reasons, and this is not because I want to do this shit to be on stage or whatever. But I respect people like you. I respect people like Dylan and Ryan that are able to live the dream.
Be who they are and live the dream. That's
and make a living doing the things you love. This is what this podcast is all about. People like you who have gone through that 7-8 years, put in the groundwork, and can get to that point where they make a living doing it. That inspires me because I know one day I'll get there.
Yeah.
But I also know that I don't deserve to be there right now. You know, I'm barely at 2 years podcasting. So it's like when you meet people like yourself and you hear stories like this, it's a reminder that anybody can do it.
Yeah.
If you're consistent, you're patient, you make that little progress, you have those little wins every single day.
Small wins, yep.
It all adds up, and then you got this big victory, and boom, the fireworks go off.
Exactly.
Last question before we get our party rocking tonight, and I hate that. Ladies and gentlemen, also, I apologize. My voice is shot. I sounded so weird, and you're probably like, who the hell is this Bobbbaaaay? This is not Bobbbaaaay. I was singing my ass off last night. For
yelling.
Oh, my God, dude.
Yelling.
Having so much fun out on the East Coast. But sorry if that annoyed you guys. Last question for you. What's the best 2 to 3 pieces of advice you give to somebody that's listening, hasn't found that passion, hasn't found that purpose just yet, is trying to find it? What do you say they do?
I think you really just got to look at yourself. Just really, whatever you've gone through, whatever you come from, look at the themes. Look at you know, like we were talking about how the universe kind of, if you let it flow, it'll flow. So really just kind of follow it. Don't try to, you know, mold yourself. And, you know, if you feel like you should do a drastic change, like go for it. That's going with the flow. Like, but honestly, I think you really got to look at what you really enjoy. Like, stop looking at what people tell you to enjoy, or stop looking at what people's definition of success is, all this stuff like that. That's just being projected onto you. That's not truly coming from you. That's not you projecting. So honestly, really, really investigate yourself, and don't be afraid to. That's like my biggest thing, because I think the key to become what you want to be is already there. It honestly is already there. It's not to be found. It's already within you. You just got to follow it, like, honestly.
Yeah. And I think it's smart to look at the themes and kind of see what
you
makes
know,
sense, what doesn't.
What was I into as a child? You know,
Yeah.
how did that feed into what I was doing as a teenager? Like, what are the themes going on? Like, where is the universe pushing me? Like, really investigate yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. Abstract. Thank you for coming on the Purpose in You podcast.
Thank you so
man.
much.
I'm so happy we could do this, and
Definitely.
let's get rocking. Time to
Let's
get
go.
fired up, ladies
Let's
and gentlemen.
go.
We're about to go have some fun tonight. Oh yeah. We'll catch you guys next time.
Have a good one, guys.
See ya.